Let's start off with the local currency. We're just over R7 to the US dollar. We did see a little bit of strength coming through this morning about the possible deal between Walmart and Massmart. Where do you see the rand going from here, given the fact that the dollar is starting to gain a little bit of ground?
Well, the rand did give it back the initial gains that we received. We traded briefly below the 7 figure, as you said, all on the back of the potential of inflow of dollars on the back of the Massmart Walmart deal. At that stage, the US future was up quite considerably, and things were looking positive for emerging markets. The local market was also about to play catch-up in the equity markets after the 3 days of being closed, and our peers in Australia and the Far East had performed admirably this morning. We seemed to disappoint a little, and as the US future came off its best levels, although it's still in the black, we came off its best levels, and this seemed to put a brake on the rand's strength, and we traded back towards the 702 figure. Obviously at these levels we have seen some importer interest, and these are favorable levels considering we traded R7.10 on Friday afternoon. Guys were lapping up dollars around the 7 figure level, and hence we found a little bit of a base at that level. We've also seen some interest from offshore markets in buying dollars.
Well, just looking at the speculation that's come through as well because of Irish government debt and Irish debt as a whole, that has also been, of course, one of the sentiment dampeners in the Eurozone, and this is why we're seeing the euro coming under pressure. Do you think it's just a blip and that we will be seeing dollar weakness prevailing from here onwards?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the dollar is now been under some pressure for some time, and it appears that for the time being, until we see any reversal of fortunes from the US, the dollar will remain on the back foot. As with any market, gold has come off its highs, the rand's come back from its lows, the euro's traded back from its absolute highs. The fact of the matter is that guys will take profits at some point, and as I say, at the moment, the markets are caught in a phase of uncertainty, and we look forward to US GDP this week. But the fact of the matter is GDP growth is hard to come by in these markets, and we don't foresee any massive surprise to the upside. So for the moment, and I say this in the very medium term, we probably will see the dollar remain on the back foot overall.
Exactly, and there's a lot of talk about quantitative easing, the second round coming to the fore, and the US is not really too worried about a weakening currency purely because it is going to depreciate the value of its debt going forward. And we have been seeing interesting currency plays over the last few weeks to do with the yuan and the yen as well. The rand strengthening quite extensively, a lot of people opting for us because of the yield that we offer most investors. Do you think rand strength is here to play given the dynamics that are playing out on a global level?
I think rand strength is, yeah, and like a flame drawn Zamotha, I think the rand will trade below 7 in the not too distant future, and probably once we see a technical close below that level, which has been a psychological level for some time, we will open up trading towards the 680, 682 type of level. At the moment, fortunately, Mr. Manuel seemed to manage to get the point across that fixing the rand at any specific level will be counterproductive in the long term. So there was much talk of levels around the 1050 level at the ANC General Council meeting. It appears that that's been put on the back burner. We will be seeing, Mr. Zuma alluded to a economic study to see what would be best for the country. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I don't think a weaker currency will make our workers any more productive than they are. The fact of the matter is that globally the dollar is under pressure. Now, to try and artificially peg your currency has been proven time again is not a sustainable project. So I think for the moment, dollar is on the back foot, and it will remain so until we see some change in the markets.
Well, the fact that we've seen Europe's central banks halting the sales of their gold reserves, something that they've been doing very often for around 10 years. Do you think that says a lot about the current sovereign debt situation that is playing out in the Eurozone, perhaps showing that the central banks are relatively concerned about a possible default?
I don't think that specific scenario, i.e. the default, is going to come into play. The fact of the matter is that gold is always going to be the last port of call for investors from a safety perspective. And yes, the man in the street's also in the same scenarios as everyone else. So everyone is piling into the yellow metal, and 1300 is a massive level. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me to see some sort of selling interest, not specifically from central bankers, but as things stand with the dollar, we will continue to see investment into gold, and the dollar will remain under pressure until we see some sort of economic change in the US, and I can't imagine that we're going to see a massive spurt of growth coming from that sector at this stage.
William, looking at the South African scenario as well this week, we have a plethora of data set to be released: CPI, PPI, we've got the trade numbers as well, and we've got vehicle sales, leading indicators that also need to be absorbed by the market. Do you think that mostly all of this data has been priced in?
I think the majority of that data would have been priced in. We've managed to hold below the Reserve Bank's 6% level on the inflation front, and I can't imagine that any of those figures are going to breach that top band of the inflationary target. And as I say, at the moment, there's nothing to buck that trend. I can't imagine we've seen such extensive growth. New car sales, etc., have been volatile numbers over historically speaking, so I can't see any changes, unforeseen changes in that sector.